You're in the rant wormhole where I rant about whatever my $15 a month patrons want me to rant about. You can get a rant for yourself by becoming one of those people. Today's rant was requested by Go Go a Sumo Up, who says, "Can you rant about RWBY or Rooster Teeth making their own animated series in general, please? Thank you." I don't know about any other animated series Rooster Teeth has made. I've never really kept up with them in a big way. I watched the first few seasons of Red vs. Blue back in like 2006, and that was my last real exposure to them. Beyond seeing things here and there and seeing a few episodes of RWBY. RWBY is absolutely abysmal. I am kind of shocked that like it took off in the way that it did, and I think a lot of it has to do with this like it's just three guys meme. The like, oh, like you can shit on it and say like it has all these inconsistencies and aesthetic problems, but it's just three guys in like a bedroom, and I'm like, okay, well, M. Strange is one guy who's made three feature films that look and sound incredible and like have really amazing aesthetics, really cool designs, really great animation, inventive stuff, like and he made those in like shorter time than RWBY takes to make. So I don't give a fuck if only three guys made it. It looks and sounds like shit. The character models are not good. They're over designed. They are like, I just don't think they're good looking in any particular way. I don't like their outfits. I don't like their weapons. I don't like how gaudily huge the weapons are. The fight choreography can be okay sometimes, but like it's just not very animated, and like shit's like the camera's always just flying around, and like I remember the old like Haloid and Dead Fantasy videos, and like what made those exciting at the time was that it was like your favorite video game characters are duking it out, like it had less to do with it being an amazing piece of animation and more to do with it being an epic battle between Samus and Master Chief. And like with that kind of stuff, like the fact that it could get crazy and over the top and wild was fun and funny because it's like a crazy fan work about something you already care about. But then when you have an original IP that has none of that novelty to stand on, and it just kind of looks like ass, and like it's clear that like the voice actors are not being brought into a studio. It's a bunch of people who are known online who are using different levels of quality microphones for their voice dubbing, and like they all can't act for shit, and it feels like an anime dub, which is not a good feel, and like the dialogue is boring and preposterous, and just like it feels like all the worst things from being influenced by anime. It feels like the worst version of if somebody was like, oh, I'm going to make my own version of anime, and it's going to be like all the cliches, but it's going to have rad fights. It's like, why do you got to do that? And like, again, the fights, like, the choreography can be fun when characters like bouncing all over the place and shit, but like, it's just not that impressive to look at, especially in comparison to like what we've got now, because again, to go back to something like Dead Fantasy, like at the time it was fairly impressive for fan-made CGI to like go that far, and there wasn't nearly as much CGI battling going on in the professional anime world and stuff, and now there's tons of that, so it's like you've got even more shit to compare it to that just does the visual aesthetic of that style of fighting better, I think of something like Kill La Kill Episode 3, which has like the extensive 2D, 3D integration. It just feels amazing, There's no fight in RWBY that looks like that. From what I've seen anyways. Which was like half the first season and a few random episodes of later seasons, just to see if it got better. Because people will always say it does, but if you watched it that far, it already means you have different taste. Like if you didn't give up after the first couple episodes, you probably just don't feel the same way about, like, you probably don't hate it as much as I do. So, of course, if you say it gets better, I might believe you, but, it might be going from a 1 to a 4 for me or something. So, yeah, I checked out a little bit more. I also checked out some of the fights in, like, the later the later Red versus Blue, and it just seemed like really, like it was so over the top, but it was taking itself completely seriously, and so it wasn't like fun and hilarious. It was just like, oh, there's a bunch of like badass action stuff happening, but like, again, you're never going to be as impressed by like a crazy kung fu showdown in a 3D, you know, like in a 3D fucking anime as you are by like a fight in the Raid Redemption or something. Like, if I'm gonna come to something for action scenes, I'm not gonna come to something that looks like RWBY, you know. So yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say about it, because I don't know about the other Rooster Teeth shows. So that's the end of this rant.